So guys, welcome back to an interesting episode. Sal here. Today we're discussing a very interesting topic. Something that I've had in my house basically for a very long time and I did not know a lot about. This box. What is this box? Who owned this box? What is inside this box? All about to be answered. First, an interesting story basically on how I attained this box. So, long story short, I enjoy thrifting. I think it is an excellent way to be stylish on a budget. And as most of you who like to thrift know, you guys know that you can find household goods like art and books and glassware. And so I found this box in a thrift store. I was thrifting with my friend in the Upper East Side in the fall of 2016. Picture you like a very kind of like a dingy thrift store. It wasn't one of those like Savers with all the nice bright lights. This was basically more or less a hole in the wall. I don't know, this definitely looked like an old garage, you know, one of those that you could just pull up the metal screen up front. Very New York, if you will. And so went inside, it looked like there were a lot of like donated goods, perhaps some consignment goods that were being sold there as well. And again, this place also had a lot of home goods. So I went in the back and, you know, when you want to find something good at a thrift store, you have to dig. And I dug and ended up finding this awesome box. So the outside can look like any cigar box, which it is. It's a cigar box. It is a Brooks & Co. Exceptional Tepson Quality Corona cigar. Very mild flavoring. Very mild. And it was, I think, about 50 cents for the entire box. And after doing some research, I could hold it up here. But basically, I dated the cigar box to about the 1930s, 1940s, around that 2-decade era. Wasn't too clear. There were some for sale. Just the box itself, it was like $25. But the company, supposedly, the ones that were being sold were, well, I don't know if the company's still around. Honestly, I did not check that out. But I do know that this version of the box was from the 1930s and 40s. Very eye-catching when I first saw it. But what really caught my attention and kept me engaged, and the reason why I bought this, is what is inside of this box. Ladies and gentlemen, very, very cool, a unique find. Basically, I attained a very private collection of photos, actually, and they look like, they're not negatives, actually. I think these are for a projector, when you put them in the slides and you go, basically showing each individual one in one of those old school projectors. Again, probably from like the 30s, 40s, 50s. I'm guessing because of the photos. I'll delve in a little bit more. But basically, I have a collection here of about, I would say, 200 different photos, from family photos, from travels, mostly travels, and basically landscapes and different scenes of travels. And what we have here are the original boxes that these transparencies were developed and placed in, color film transparencies. And it says you could order beautiful colored prints from your favorite slides in any of the following sizes, ... But basically, this is where they came in. So I have this original box. And actually, if you look closely here, I believe, like, according to the design, I could probably say this would be like, again, like 1940s and 50s. Look how modern, you know, the family sitting down and enjoying a nice slideshow evening together. So I thought that was pretty cool. But this is the original box here. But basically, I went through and I started to get a little intrigued. I was like, what do we have here? So, like I said, there's a lot of travel bits. I'll put up some slides here because you won't be able to see them when I hold them up. They're very dark. For example, this one is of, it looks of like a French palace. And we have here a family photo, which I'll delve into in a second. This is a photo of a painting, which is reminiscent of a Dutch painting, like perhaps like a Rembrandt. Don't quote me on that one. But there are basically a lot of stills involving personal moments in somebody's life. So I was like, I have somebody's photo album, but in a unique way. I'm allowing myself to be immersed into this person's life and what they found beautiful. So I think that was a very intimate find in a thrift store, honestly. But what I found most interesting after doing some research is who this box actually belongs to. My favorite part was the pictures of family members and actually the person who took these photos. I'm assuming, but he's the most seen, and it makes sense because we have here one of the old photo boxes that it came in, that all these photos came in, says Dr. Hafner. So I was intrigued. I was like, Dr. Hafner. I'm like, well, that sounds like, honestly, a very generic German name. It could really lead to a lot of different paths, especially that this is older. So, you know, online nowadays, we could have at least a record of the last 2 decades, but since this is from the 40s, I probably must dig deeper. But luckily, this guy was pretty famous. So, Dr. Hafner, this was his box. I'll put this slide up. I found this very interesting. This is a photo of him and his family during a Christmas dinner, and he seems to be about in his late 30s, early 40s. There's a bunch more that, again, I'll put up for you guys to check out. But I did my research, and it was, like I said, quite complicated. What is most common that is seen is the Kodachrome transparency processed by Kodak. Made in the USA. And now there was one also labeled Hollywood, California. So I went to Google and I typed in Dr. Hafner, Hollywood, California, nothing. But I was thinking, I'm like, well, I found this box in the Upper East Side of New York. So it's like, okay, New York, Dr. Hafner, New York. Scroll. You guys, I came across this photo of a gentleman that looked quite similar to the gentleman. This is so cool. The gentleman in this photo, and I have the information here in my computer, a man with a very similar nose, a very similar chin, and very distinct eyebrows, which again I'll put up for you guys to see. His name is Alden Norman Hafner. He was actually an optometrist based in New York and was actually quite famous. So in 1956, when the School of Optometry closed in Columbia, that left New York State without an actual professional specified school for optometry. And Dr. Alden Norman Hafner began the SUNY College of Optometry in New York City. So we can deem Dr. Hafner as quite the revolutionary in the field of optometry, well, especially here in New York State. But unfortunately, Dr. Adler was no saint. This isn't a fairy tale story, ladies and gentlemen. I have his art, and I'm going to say this before I delve into the next subject. He took some beautiful photos. These are excellent. I actually need to see if I can get some of these developed. I definitely would want to. I have actually some empty frames over there that I could fill them up with some of his work here. Okay, jackpot, yes, but again, this isn't a fairy tale story. We'll say it like that. In 2005, Dr. Adler retired. We're seeing this here on the State University of New York's College of Optometry's site, but according to the New York Post, on December 15th, 2005, entitled, we have a headline of SUNY'S Black-Eyed Optometry PREXY Out on Sexual Harass Scandal. Unfortunately, he retired, aka he was asked to go on an academic leave because he was the dean of the school at that point. But, you know, as we know today in 2020, again, this was 15 years ago, I'm glad that the Post actually reported on this. So, the history of the gentleman behind the stories aside, aka Dr. Alden Norman Hafner, this is art, this is beautiful, absolutely, and it is a period of history that is not really seen this way. I mean, we could see it through the lens of the internet and Google, but this has, you know, it's really kind of priceless and it's moving. We're touching the box from the 1930s and 40s. We're seeing all these incredible frames from, I would say, from like the 40s, 50s, 60s, let's say that 3-decade period. So I still very much treasure this box. I would still rack this up as a score at a thrift shop. And thank you for tuning in for another interesting episode this week and another story. I hope you guys are well, and I will catch you all on the next video. And here are some last frames that I'd like to leave you with. See you guys soon.